Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webcast on launching a successful CPA career. My name is Karen Lee and I'll be your moderator for today. Our goal for the next hour is to discuss some of the more common challenges a CPA faces in the first 5 years of their career. And we have compiled some questions, frequently asked questions that CPAs and CPA candidates have, but encourage everybody to submit questions for discussion as well. So we'll go over a little bit of introductions, go over our experience taking the exam, our experience in our first job, and also how we have ended up in our current role right now. So I'm currently an audit manager at Deloitte out of the Parsippany office. I've been with the firm for a little bit over 6 years, primarily serving commercial clients. These clients can range anywhere from large multinational public entities, mid-sized companies to smaller pre-IPO entities. I graduated from Rutgers University in New Brunswick, and I am currently a member on the Young CPAs Council here at the NJCPAs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ben Greenfield. I'm the U.S. Controller and Director of Finance at Gain Capital. We're a public company brokerage in New Jersey. I've been a CPA for just about 6 years, same amount as Karen. We actually started together at Deloitte. In my current position, I focus on controllership. I have experience in my company with SEC reporting, mergers and acquisitions, and other transactions. I graduated from Haverford College and then went to Fairleigh Dickinson for my accounting degree. Welcome everybody. Look forward to meeting you and talking.
Hi everyone, I'm Kait Zech. I'm an accounting supervisor at PKF O'Connor Davies in Cranford, New Jersey. I'm a graduate of Seton Hall University, Go Pirates. I've been in the accounting field since I was in high school, so about 12 to 14 years now. I'm going to date myself. And I work in the Entrepreneurial Services Group, working on small to medium businesses and their accounting and tax services.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Dvorak. I am a tax manager at Friedman LLP in East Hanover. I'm also a director of the Bergen chapter of CPAs, as well as being on the Young CPAs Council. As a tax manager, I work on a wide array of clients, from small to large corporations, publicly traded as well, and excited to be here as well.
So I guess we could start off by talking a little bit about our CPA experience. So Ben, would you like to start?
I would love to start. So my CPA experience, I think, was probably a little easier than others because I don't really have much of a social life, so I can stay home and study a lot more than most people could. No, seriously. I started studying for the exam just after I graduated from the accounting program at Fairleigh. So I had the summer to study and then took two sections before beginning my first job at Deloitte, and 2 sections I took while an employee at Deloitte. I would say my best advice for those studying for the exam is really to study hard. I firmly believe that it's not a difficult piece of material to learn as long as you put in the time. I really think anyone who dedicates themselves to doing it certainly can. I think diligence and just being organized is the way to go. Of course, the review materials are very important, and really studying with a group of CPAs, prospective CPAs, I should say, is a great way to move yourself forward.
I actually had a little bit of a different experience. I worked all throughout high school and college at a small accounting firm, and so I was studying and taking the exam pretty much throughout my college career just so I can get it done fairly early. I also was a little bit of a lacking social life, so
Common theme.
When friends were going out, I was staying home to study just to get it through, and I just think, take the courses and stay home. Don't go out as much as possible, and make flashcards. However you feel that you need to study is something that should get you through.
I had a similar approach. Definitely right out of school, when you're still in that test-taking mode, is definitely when you want to approach the exam. I actually started my first full-time job and my Becker review course on the exact same day. So full-time job and Becker. I just said, you know what, for the next 6.5 months before February, I kind of want to get this wrapped up. So I ended up taking my last test on February 1st and successfully passed all 4 before busy season. I think the key, though, for everyone really is to focus on what is your best study habits. I have no willpower, so I did a live class with Becker. And also, the test is multiple choice questions, so I could read that book 100 times. If I can't answer the questions right, and more importantly, find out why I got a question wrong, I think that's the best way to tackle the exam.
I've got a free tip, actually, I forgot to mention. This is something that people haven't realized, I think, it seems to me. The books have a glossary. You recall that? It's a very thick glossary. And the words in there are in bold. And it dawned on me by about my 3rd and a half exam that they're in bold for a reason. So I really do recommend learning those words. A lot of the exam is kind of definitional. Do you know what this word means? You can answer the question if you do. So that was something I picked up towards the end of my test-taking career.
One of the more frequently asked questions that I get is, should I really focus on the simulations? And a lot of people, there's different answers on both, but what I found helpful is even if you don't do the simulations, just sort of read the answer and go over the simulation material, because you really get the fundamentals from, looking at the glossary and doing all the multiple choice questions. And it's really just taking that information and applying it down to a way where you can, practically write everything down or, type everything in the computer and do entries. It's definitely one of the best advice that I've gotten in terms of that part, because it is 40% of a lot of the exams, right? Yeah.
And say do the questions over and over and over again. There are only so many ways they can ask the same material.
Right.
If you keep doing the questions, you're going to get similar questions on your exam, so I'd highly recommend that.
I think we might be dating ourselves a little bit. I know a lot of the younger staff that I work with now, they're all about studying on their phone, that they've got the actual login to whatever course that they're taking, and then so if they're on a train, they're studying. And I think that's a good thing to keep up with. You don't have to lug around the big books like we might have had to. So get online, make things a little easier.
It's a thin glossary.
Yeah, download that app and you should be pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know how you study yourself, going through college, and if you need to just lock yourself down at home and just sit there and have no life for, hours a day, that's the way I am. That's what I had to do. I was taking Becker courses online during when I was starting my first job, so I really had to take the time off and take time for myself to actually take the exam, and that knowledge of yourself is really the best thing you could do. So I guess we could move on a little bit about our first job, and then also your choice in terms of public or private. So can you talk a little bit about that in terms of your careers, since I know we all have a wide variety of experience.
We'll start with Danielle this time.
Sure, absolutely. So my first job I actually ended up getting right out of college, actually through a networking event, through the State Society actually. I attended a 2.5-day event at Monmouth University that the society was holding, and I actually met my future employer there, and through networking I was able to get my first job and my foot in the door. I always wanted to work in a public firm, kind of for the variety. I didn't want to be stuck in kind of that same routine every day, and I also kind of wanted that small to mid-sized firm where they knew my name, it wasn't just a number, and I also wanted that work-life balance of a firm that would not burn me out, working 100 hours a week during tax season, somewhere I could have a nice fit of a little bit of everything.
So I took my first job in high school at a sole proprietor in the town where I grew up, and really the only reason I chose it is because it paid higher than some of the other restaurant jobs that were available. I actually wanted to be an artist. I was an art major in college in the beginning. So I stayed with the accounting because I enjoyed working with different clients, the small to medium-sized businesses, and helping them out, and seeing that the work that you can do does make a difference by helping them get their finances in order, helping them figure out their lives and run their own businesses. So I stuck with it in college and then have moved on to slightly larger and larger firms as the time has gone on. But I have stuck with public because, like Danielle, I like the variety of clients. I like helping the small business out and getting them to understand that we're not just accountants, we're consultants. We do all sorts of work and can help them really grow their own business.
So I had a pretty different career path as compared to the panelists here. I began my college career, actually finished my college career as a liberal arts student, and from there I went to Rutgers and got a master's in social work, and I then was a social work practitioner for a few years. I thought that I would not make that much money as a social worker. That was kind of a given, but I thought I'd really like it. So I was right and wrong. And being right and wrong, I decided that I would have to actually go back to school and find something else to do. Accounting was a great path for me to take because Fairleigh Dickinson offered just a little bit more than 1 year master's program. So going through that program, I was able to use the connections at the school to get an internship at PwC, and also then get a full-time position with Deloitte in the audit practice. That's the way I got into accounting.
So can we talk a little bit more about the differences between working at a large and small firms? I know a lot of, we do have some people that have started their career at, different paths. So can we talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. In my personal experience, so I began at Deloitte and then moved on to one of my clients, where I currently am, Gain Capital. Deloitte, of course, in the U.S. is 50,000 people, somewhere around there, so quite a large animal. And my current firm is about 1,000 people across the globe. In the larger firms, it was my experience that you have different opportunities. They could range from social groups to volunteerism to various outreach programs that I don't see those kinds of things as much in a smaller environment. And as Danielle and Kate said, in the smaller environment, people tend to know your name. So in my company now, in the finance group, I walk around the office and I go from the CFO's office to the vice president of marketing's office to our corporate strategy department's head's office, and everyone knows each other really across the globe. So I definitely agree that in the smaller firms, in smaller companies, if it's not a public accounting firm, you definitely get a little bit more of that personal touch in my experience. And that being said, though, even at a large firm like Deloitte, your experience really, I should say, is dependent on the 10 to 20 people you work with. There are 50,000 people in that company. You don't work with them all. You work with just your teams, a handful of people in your group, and that really determines your experience. So whether it's big or small in terms of your company size, I do believe that you can only work with so many people very closely, and the people that you work with closely is really, those people will determine the quality of your experience.
I definitely agree with Ben on the pros and cons of working at a small firm versus a large firm. Since I've worked in both, I feel like I have a wide range of opinion on it. I've really enjoyed working in both types of firms. I think at a small firm, at the beginning of my career, I was able to learn the nuts and bolts of accounting and tax work, and actually, work on clients from start to finish, do everything, their business, their individual tax returns, really get to know them very well. At a larger firm, I've found more opportunities where I was able to get into different industries that I wasn't, exposed to at the smaller firm. Maybe even pick a little bit of a specialty, work on larger clients, do different types of things, get outside of just the accounting and tax work. So there definitely are pros and cons in both. And like Ben said, at larger firms, yes, there's more people, but it really does matter on the group that you're working with. And you can build a family just because there's thousands of people in your office. If you're still working with the same 20 people on a daily basis, you really do get to know them well.
I also had a similar career path to Kate. I started at a small one-office, 30-person firm, and spent a great 5 years there, and really did learn a lot and built my accounting foundation. I did eventually want to transition to a larger firm where I could technically increase my tax skills and work on complex clients, publicly traded, various industries that I wasn't exposed to. But I kind of got great experiences in both. At the smaller firm, I went out to clients on a daily basis and helped them with, their accounting and records and books, ultimately, completing their tax returns. And then now at a larger firm, I have the ability to help on, tax provisions for, publicly traded, entities, and a variety of tasks I would not have the exposure to maybe at a smaller firm, but I wouldn't trade either one for anything. I think the different things you can do at different firms is great, and it helped me become, a better accountant.
So Ben, you left public accounting for private, and one of the questions we get is, after people move into private, often they let their CPA lapse. So can you talk us a little bit about how you kept an active CPA and stayed a member of the NJCPA and the benefits?
Sure. Well, first, I moved from public to private to embrace some new opportunities, essentially. I felt that I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish personally at a public firm, and I wanted to kind of take a role as, rather than the person reviewing the books and records and all the accounting transactions, I wanted to be a person who was preparing them, and I felt that there was a bit of an opportunity to be a little more creative, to whatever extent an accountant can be creative. But I really did like the idea of the CFO would call me into the office and as a private accountant and say, we did this deal, here's the contract, go figure out what to do with it. Versus at an auditor, the same thing would happen, but it would be, this deal was done, here's what they did with it, tell me what you think about it. And that's interesting and valuable as well, of course, but I really like the opportunity to kind of be my own creator and figure out my own problems myself. And I definitely have found that to be more invigorating, shall we say. In terms of my CPA license, I've kept it up because I think it's really important to have that as part of my name, part of my professional pedigree, and my credential if I do seek another job, or even within my company, when I call a department and say, hey, you guys are doing something and I think it actually should be done a different way, knowing that I'm a CPA and have the background that I have, really lends some weight to my decision-making powers and my ability to influence other members of the company, and also our clients and vendors with whom we deal. And it has not really been very difficult to keep up my license. It's just a bit of CPE every year. I'm fortunate, I teach as an adjunct professor at Fairleigh, so that gets me a lot of the credits without having to go beyond what I already was doing, so that's definitely a bit of weight off my back. But my company allows me to go to the CPA convention in Atlantic City every year. That gets me most of my credits, so it hasn't really been too difficult to do. It's just a bit of organization and making sure I hit the mark. But I would certainly recommend keeping the license. Every one of us works so hard to get it. I can't imagine working that hard for something and then just say, you know what, I don't need it anymore. And even of the off chance that I wanted to go back into public.
Yeah.
And it's a very off chance, but it would.
So I have a quick question, and for you, I guess, and Karen, tell me if I'm stepping on toes here, but as being in public accounting my whole career, I'm always curious in private, and I love the varying client base that I have, and I love the fact that I'm out of the office often, every month, every quarter. I'm doing different things and different clients. Do you still find that variety in your private firm?
It's a good question. I do, but it doesn't come from going to different offices or different clients. What it comes from is, I think, and especially being in a company the size of mine, so we're a public company, but we're not a large public company. But being a public company, we do all kinds of M&A, we have hybrid debt instruments. So where I find the variety is being able to participate in many different types of accounting areas within a small firm, or a smaller company, I should say. So I do get, I think, the variety, but kind of internally. So I can work with the IT department. We are testing out a new product, and what are the rules to get proper capitalization, and if we want to do this, we're going to bring in a vendor, but can we get the benefit of a tax benefit from bringing in an external vendor versus internal? There are all kinds of questions that come up from various departments, and I think that is the way that the variety comes into my life. I don't particularly like to travel, so I don't. There are two places I'm comfortable: with my house and my chair in my office. But I take your question, and it's a good question. But I think there are ways to get that variety. Now, it's possible that if I had left public to go to a large company, say, Verizon or a global conglomerate kind of, it's possible that in such a situation, then I would really find myself, I'm working on cash, and tomorrow I'm working on cash, and the day after I'm working on cash. But in my particular situation, I don't have that situation currently, so that's worked out really well for me, and I do like the opportunity to work with a team in my current company and grow a team. In public, I think it's much more common that people come in and out. You do your 2 years and you're out, you do a year and you're out, do 5 years and you're out, versus in private, I found that people tend to stay a little longer in a company, and you get to build relationships and kind of say, we're here now in year 1, let's plan where we can be in year 5, and I think we have a little bit more continuity there.
So we touched a little bit about, what do we get out of our jobs, but can you two expand on that, and also what made you stay in the field of accounting? Because I know people often get their accounting degree and they can move into finance or marketing, and it's just such it could be utilized for many things. So we've all stayed in accounting. What sort of makes you excited about your job and have stayed?
I'll take that one. I mean, first off, why I started in accounting is it's truly the language of business. You really can't do anything well without accounting and its foundation. It's so integral to a lot of different elements. Being able to work in a small firm and in a large firm, you can utilize it in so many different ways. I do something different every day. One day I'm doing a tax projection, another day I'm doing maybe a provision for a financial statement, or sometimes our litigation and forensic department will reach out to me and say, in a matrimonial dispute that, maybe the husband wants to, sell their shares of Facebook, and what's the tax ramification of that, and what's the net cash they should be distributing to, the spouse. So I get a lot of different things. It's also great working with so many different people. As a tax manager, I get to work with a lot of different, groups of people. That's one great thing about a larger firm as well. We have, multiple offices in my firm. We're over 400 people, so you get a lot of different exposure to a lot of different people with great subject matter experience. So you get to really, challenge yourself on a daily basis, and it's never boring. A lot of people think accounting is boring and just the same thing every day, but it's truly not. Every day, truthfully, I have a game plan of what I'm going to work on, and a lot of times curveballs come your way and there's something different. So I think that's what keeps it, entertaining and not the same old thing.
I've actually been getting into some of the family wealth and business management services in my firm, and that's kind of opened up my eyes to how much we really can help our clients. We do with certain athletes and entertainers that really have no idea what's going on in their lives. They have no idea what money that they're making and how the money is going out the door. So it's kind of fun in a little bit of a nerdy way to sit down and look at all of their income and expenses and say, yes, you're making good money, but here's where the money's going, and here's ways that we can help you not have it go out as quickly. And I think that's kind of opened my eyes to say, this is how we can help our clients out, and it's almost given me a new vigor to stay in the accounting field and keep doing this.
Those expenses must be hilarious.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I would think that my experience, and probably yours as well, Karen, we being at Deloitte, working in public companies, and you're still there, and now working for a public company, we never get, I have no idea about taxes,
individual experience.
people's finances. Yeah. I mean, you could help me more than you believe me. It's a completely different experience. I think that speaks to the variety of jobs you can have, even just
in the field.
field.
And Danielle, you mentioned accounting as the language of business. That's something that I say in the first class every semester. I say accounting is the language of business, and people make a face at me because it's a tried and true line.
I mean, you're a perfect example. You can teach. You can go into private, public. There's governmental work. I mean, really, the possibilities are endless.
So in terms of the language, I've recently taken on a task that I find really interesting and rewarding. One of my current jobs is to be kind of the translator, which is why the language kind of made my ears perk up. I'm a translator between the business heads for the various segments that I oversee and the board and our executive management. So the business heads give me their budgets, and we work on them together, and then we get our monthly, quarterly, yearly results. And my job is to take what they've told me and what's happened and make it understandable for senior management, because business folks, the commercial side, they're often very, very salesy, and they have kind of jargon that's industry specific. And even that, it's part of the accountant's role in this position to help them focus. We say to them, why is it that the revenue in your sector has exceeded budget? And they say, well, it's the market, and it's my job to translate that, because anyone could say it's the market. We don't have to pay you X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars to say it's the market. My son could do that. He's 20 months old. So I have to tell him that the CFO and the CEO, we have three questions. What happened? Why did it happen? And what are we doing? How are we making sure that it will continue happening or improve? So that's in my case, it's a language in a different way. I'm translating between the commercial side and senior management, and I'm kind of the middleman who understands both sides and can make both sides talk to each other. So it's another interesting thing that you can do as an accountant.
So also in terms of work-life balances, one of the biggest questions we get is about, how do I balance starting out my job and also, my social life and, that transition from college to your first job. So let's take a look at this video from other young CPAs and see how they maintain a good work-life balance.
I think finding the balance for myself was easier just because I keep myself disciplined. So in the sense that I know what work needs to get done, I can get that work done, and then I know that once that's off my mind, I can enjoy other things.
In public accounting, number one priority is client service. So you have your clients, you have to meet their deadlines, you have to meet their needs. And you can do that not in the traditional 9 to 5 or 7 to midnight hours. You don't have to work those hours just to get their needs done. You have a team around you. You have a lot of support around you. So you don't have to be on call 24/7.
Busy season is rough. We work a lot during busy season, but outside of busy season, I wouldn't even call it a 9 to 5 anymore. We have flexibility to work the hours we want. I'm a morning bird. I come in the office at 7 and I leave by 3 a lot in the summer. If you want to take off on Friday, you can work on Sunday or Saturday. It depends where you're working and who you're working with, but we have a lot of flexibility now.
In the back of your head, you got to know that if you're working like a dog 24/7, you're going to drain yourself and you're going to be at the end of business and you're going to be done. But if you're able to step back a little bit and maybe do something, it doesn't have to be an hour long, maybe 10, 20 minutes. Watch a video on YouTube, go work out for a little bit. Work might be a bigger part of the balancing act, but it's also finding those smaller parts to help you out.
Although I'm on a ferry 4 days a week, coming here, it takes me almost 2 hours to get here and to get home. I have the freedom to leave at whatever time is best for me. If I have a date night with my fiance, or if I have girls' night, or if I have volleyball to get to, you need to leave work to make that happen. And I think it really makes it worth it, doing something that you love, knowing that there is that flexibility and you're afforded that opportunity to kind of make it work with whatever life you're living.
I really have a great lifestyle. I really do feel like I can work hard, meet all of my clients' needs, and I still have an amazing personal life. I consider an amazing personal life. So, I have my husband, I have my puppy, I have my first child on the way. So my firm is super supportive of everything that I can do. So you really can have it both ways. You can have public accounting and still have whatever you want in your life.
So I think this video highlights it's still possible to have a decent work-life balance even during busy season. So I guess to bring it to the panel, what sort of tips do you have on work-life balance, especially when you're first starting at the firm and also as you progress in your career?
I think I should have watched that video.
I think when I first started working, I was very conscious of I'm going to be the first person in the office. I'm going to be the last person to leave. I want to make sure that they see that how hard I'm working, and being in the office to me equated to working hard, not really working smart. As my career has progressed, I've realized that, again, not because you're the first one in and the last one out means you're the most productive. So I've tried to kind of take a look at my time management skills throughout the day and say, what am I doing? What do I have to get done today so that I can leave the office at a decent hour and still feel productive? So I know busy season is very tough for everyone, and sometimes you just have to grin and bear it for those 10 to 13 weeks that you're doing it, knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and that you will have a break after that. A lot of the help that I have is being friends with the people that I work with and wanting to come into the office and taking a break and taking a full lunch hour, even though I have a lot to do, but just actually breathing and walking away from my computer and maybe taking a walk outside or just going into the lunchroom and joking around with people for a little bit. So I know that's helped me a lot. And then taking advantage of the perhaps Fridays off or half-day Fridays, whatever advantages my firm will give us to take a breath outside of the busy season, knowing that I will have to work When the work comes in, you've got to be there. But when the work's not there, you can take a break and, kind of hang out and breathe a little bit.
I mean, my firm's great with keeping that work-life balance and keeping us in good spirits at all times. We kind of have a motto, work hard, play harder. With our firm in summers, we get summer Fridays completely off. We work just an hour extra every day, Monday through Thursday. We get that complete Friday off, come refreshed back Monday morning. So it's really nice. We put events throughout the year to kind of keep everyone, on their toes and having fun, but at the same time keeping all the deadlines in mind. Our hours aren't too bad, truthfully. I work 2 weekends, full weekends a year, one in March and one in September, and that's essentially it. But at the same time, I still make time for that fun stuff. So like, for instance, on September 15th deadline, I had to get this humongous family group out, and I had a softball game and the Giants were playing, and I wasn't going to miss either. So I came in late Friday, worked all day Saturday, came in for a few hours on Sunday, and I fitted in right around the Giants and my softball game, so I could still have that work-life balance, because if not, you're just going to make yourself go crazy. So I think that's kind of important. And keeping those time management skills, like Kate said. Every morning before, I have a to-do list that I wrote the night before on what I'm going to accomplish. Sometimes you throw that out the window because 4 more things hit the desk, but you just have to make it work.
Yeah, any special time management skills and stress management techniques?
Well, I think it's really important, as both Kate and Danielle said, making sure you save time for the activities that you really enjoy. So even though at my company we don't have, I would say, what's technically called a busy season, it's just kind of always that way. I was sold when I left public. I was sold on a better work-life balance, and I often tell my boss, I ask him, is the job that you offer me still available? Because I would really be interested in that one. So I actually had the opposite experience of kind of what's the classic. My work life got a little bit more difficult in terms of the time I needed to commit to it when I left public. But now there are bad weeks and there are good weeks in terms of time. If we have an earnings release going out tomorrow, we may be in the office till 3 a.m. That's kind of just how it is on occasion. But then the next day we may say, you know what, we were here till 3 a.m. last night. Once this earnings release goes out, we're going to go home at noon. So I think my company, and I think many companies, are respectful and cognizant of the work you've put in. So I work very hard throughout the spring and fall and winter so that I can leave by 6 in the summer to play softball or tennis. I'm in a couple of leagues, and doing that, those are the fun things that really keep me engaged. It's been a little more difficult for me since I had my first child. I have only one, so my only child. It's a whole different spin. I used to always say, why are these people leaving? They got a kid at home, so what? But it really is difficult to kind of watch the clock at work and say, if I don't leave in 10 minutes, my son's going to go to sleep before I get home. So that is a whole new wrinkle for me. And with that in mind, I try to leave by 6:30 or 7 so I can at least be part of the bedtime process. But having said that, I'm able to then log back in and finish the work I need to do from 8:30 to whenever I go to sleep. It's a little complicated in it's a global job now, right? I have colleagues in Asia who are looking for assistance between 9 and midnight, and I've got colleagues in London who are looking for assistance from when I wake up till when I go into the office. So you're never really off the clock, but never really being off the clock kind of allows you to be off the clock sometimes, because my boss and my company know that I'm always basically available, and that makes them a little bit more respectful of my time. If I say, I put in X number of hours, I'm going to come here and do a panel today. I didn't have to put in a special request. I just say, you work so hard, we know to take care of your business. And I think that's pretty common in the industry.
Yeah, I think definitely flexibility comes with time, especially as you establish yourself and you've demonstrated that you can work well remotely, that you can work well with, a little bit more limited supervision, and especially as you progress to in a supervisor role, leading by example, and being able to manage your team, that can really help you in your time management skills and setting that example for your team and what they can do. So do you guys work remotely, and how do you manage that?
I definitely put some time here and there working remotely. I'm frequently now in the office more. However, technology does play a great role in the fact that you can leave the office and then still kind of have that access to allow you to do other events and other things. So I'm primarily on the tax side in the office pretty frequently now, but when I was out with clients in the first early stage of my career, it was very helpful because I was very rarely in the office. So technology played a big part in keeping me involved in my daily tasks and clients, responding to them timely.
I think the advent of smartphones has harmed and helped us at the same time.
Mostly harms.
Yeah, by allowing us to check our email 24/7, it's a great thing because you could still be connected and be in touch with your clients, be in touch with your partners or staff below you, and let them know what you're working on and you're going to hit deadlines and things like that. I don't telecommute formally, but if I'm out of the office at a client and say I get out at 3 o'clock, a lot of times I can head home and open up the laptop and work the last few hours at home rather than having to go back into the office. And so, being connected and up to date on the technology and the laptops has been really helpful. And I think it is a big part of being an accountant is you can really work anywhere. You can do this job anywhere at any time. So that is, a goal. If that's a goal of yours to possibly work part-time, work some of the time from home, it is definitely available in many firms and private companies.
So I have a question on this topic. Can I step in?
Sure.
I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So I think as we've gotten further on in our careers, at least speaking for myself, I've gotten better at working from home or remotely myself. Where I find it to be a challenge, and I'm hoping someone has some advice for me, is how do you supervise people from a distance? That I find much harder. It's very easy to step into an office with somebody and have a conversation and say, you've done X, Y, Z, I need you to make some adjustments, you missed this is a great job. I find that much more difficult. I have members of my team in Long Island and in Chicago, and I see them very rarely. And it's difficult for me to get the same kind of interaction, although we use video conferencing and other technologies. But what do you guys do for that kind of thing?
I think establishing with your team immediately this is going to be how it is. We're not always going to be in the office together. Some of you are going to perhaps work at home, go into clients. Some of you are working in different locations. So if you kind of get together initially and say, this is the way that it can work if we work together, and establish those guidelines by saying we need to check in regularly, we need to get together over the video or at least have a conference call or something like that, and get those guidelines in so that they're aware that they have to hit the deadlines so that you can hit your own deadlines, and that it's not always going to be a face-to-face interaction. I think that kind of trains everyone, the staff below you, yourself, and your own supervisors and partners, to realize that it can work if you all are working together and towards the same goal.
Yeah, it's all about being transparent. Since I actually travel for my job as well, you fly out Monday morning, you come back Thursday night, and there are some weeks where you have to be somewhere else. You can't necessarily be at your client. So it's really, establishing, being very transparent about what you're doing and being very transparent on what they need to do, and establishing those deadlines, establishing, maybe a check-in every single day. So in one of my teams, we have a check-in every single day at, 5 p.m. And, that's needed because you'll talk to each other throughout the day, obviously, and you can always jump on a phone call. That's like the best form of communication is either video conferencing or phone call, so you can actually speak about, an issue rather than, IMing over a communicator. That's there can be communication issues with, typing something out instead. Or Snapchat, yeah, like not the most efficient way of talking about like a work product. So definitely establishing, that transparency and a consistent form of communication is, definitely a key in telecommunication.
I shouldn't say this on a webcast, but I really did think that video conferencing was really stupid until we got the technology in my office. And I said, this is so much better than a phone call.
Yeah.
You see people's reactions, and I've worked with people in London for 6 years. I've talked to them every day. I had never seen their faces. And when they walked on the screen for the first time, I got a little bit emotional. It's embarrassing. But I actually started, I've been talking to you every day for 6 years. It's nice to see your face.
I know your voice so well.
No, the sound call was terrible. But
So I guess we could segue a little bit more into communications, since that's where what we've been talking about. So how do you interact with senior management, especially as you first start off in your career, and when you progress to a supervisor? What are sort of the challenges and tips that you have for that?
I mean, you just want to keep open lines of communication. Sometimes with some of the lower staff, they love sending emails. So you have to, like, even if they just want to talk to one of the partners, they think, oh, they're really busy. We have an open door policy, knock on the partner's door. He will definitely want to answer and talk to you. Like, they want to send emails to the clients, like, just go ask. Like, you need to have that open forms of communication. I think it really helps in your career. So communication is definitely key. Networking, creating our personal brands and networking for our firms, I think is very crucial and critical. I mean, I mentioned it before, I got my first job through networking. I attended an event the year after for the society at a career fair, and people came up to me and said, oh, how are you working at that firm? And I said, I met someone at a networking event. It's that easy. So I think communication is definitely very wise to get into and keep up.
I agree with the younger staff and in emailing. When you first start out, you do feel a little nervous, and you think you can spell things out in an email better than you can speak it sometimes. But if you're going to interact with older generations, or even if it's someone just a few years older than you as a supervisor, you want to be able to speak to them face to face. And like you said with your colleagues in London, it's different when you're interacting with someone and you can see their reactions.
But don't tear up the way I did.
Perhaps not, but it's different when you can see someone's interactions, and sometimes in email, the tone comes across as abrupt or maybe even too friendly at some point, so you want to learn that communication skill.
You've got to pick the subject line, which is always the hardest
thing. Exactly, yeah. So that's been one of the challenges with working with some younger staff, or I even remember myself when I first started, is getting comfortable speaking with people in all different settings, clients, colleagues, bosses, the other staff in the office. So that's definitely a challenge.
You won't learn how to communicate until you get out there and actually speak to the CFO, speak to the controller, speak to the partners and senior managers on your team.
I would say every one of you out there across this country, the people who are listening to the webcast and all of us, you were hired for a job for a reason. And the reason is you're qualified to do the job, and that should give you the confidence to go to talk to anybody. You shouldn't. I've always disliked the concept. Well, I have to go talk to my manager. I can't do that. Or my partner or the CFO. No, you're intelligent, and if you're not, then you shouldn't be doing the job. You have the ability. You should have the confidence to project the right kind of attitude, represent yourself well, and don't be shy. Everyone who's hired for a job, or even if you were brought in for an interview, there's a reason you're brought in for the interview. They like something about your resume. They like something about a conversation you may have had on the phone. And you have a lot to offer and a lot to add. And be confident and go and have those conversations with professionalism and with confidence. That's really, I think it's important. I'm the controller who receives the auditors in my office, and I give them a hard time sometimes, basically all the time. Having formally done the job, I like to bust their chops and make it difficult, just kind of for sport sometimes. But it's all in good fun, and we respect each other, and we know each party has a job to do. And I think the younger staff on the audit teams that I deal with, those who are able to come into my office or to my boss's office or my boss's boss's office with confidence, that's really impressive. And having seen that, you'll respect their questions more. And when they make requests, you'll be more likely to respond to them because you know they're someone who means business, knows what they're about, and is looking for the right things rather than wasting their time and yours. So I really think presenting yourself well is key.
So Danielle touched on this a little bit before, but how important was networking in the first few years of your career, and how did you go about that?
Extremely important, extremely important. Back to the communication, and I had no confidence when I first started. I didn't know exactly why they hired me, pretty much. I got sent to a client, my first week at the job, and I'm in an office by myself, and I have no idea how to speak to people. I know I have to come in, and I was an auditor at the time, so I have to make these selections, and I have to go to the client and say, can you help me pull these invoices? And I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. So when I finally got back to the office and I was speaking to, he was a supervisor at the time, I said, I'm nervous. I don't know how to get control of myself and be able to ask clients information. He said, why don't we go to a networking event? And so he took me to my first networking event, and it was all CPAs or all young accountants, and it was just great to talk to people who had the same experience that I did and were having the same issues that I had, and knowing that, okay, I can speak to Danielle, and now I know, now I can go speak to Ben, and if Ben's a controller, well, now I can speak to Ben as a controller, and I know that I'm confident because they hired me for a reason, and I know what I'm doing. I just have to get it out there. So networking to me has been completely invaluable. There's just no better way to build your confidence and also while building your business network.
Yeah, and you said that about being nervous when you first got on the field. Like we all, had a visceral
I hope
reaction
I wasn't the only
to that.
one. Yeah.
You're definitely not the only one, and I think really getting out there. And at Deloitte, we're lucky enough to have a lot of networking events across the office to really get to know each other. But the society provides that as well. Having networking events with companies of all different sizes, they have attendees, and I get to meet all these people like Danielle, Kait, and Ben, and it's really great to know other people in the industry and really get to see what their experience is like as well.
And we're all current or former, in my case, Young CPA Council members, and the events that the Young CPA Council puts on are really key for networking with people in similar positions, but also people in other industries and different stages of the accounting career, because the Young CPA group really goes from right out of college to, I don't even know what the top of it is. The youth keeps getting older. But there's tons of opportunity to meet people who can help you in your career. And don't think of networking as only something that happens at a networking event.
Right.
When you are in your client's office as an auditor or a tax person, you are networking. And if one day you need a job, or your sibling needs a job, or you just need advice, you can always call those people. And the interaction between you and your clients, keep in mind, nobody's out to get you, and you shouldn't be out to get anybody else, and everyone's working together. So with that teamwork or collaboration, even across different companies between the client and the service provider, really will engender a spirit of collaboration that will make networking and future opportunities together really beneficial for both.
Absolutely.
So one last question from actually our online poll. What were your main objectives through your first 5 years, and what are your objectives in the next 5?
I mean, it seems like a long time ago, but I can start with that one. I think my main objective was, since I had worked for a sole proprietor as my first job, initially I thought that's what I wanted to do. I want to own my own accounting firm one day. I want to put my name on my shingle, get it out there. And so my initial goal was to learn as much as possible and to start building a client base. I was a little bit naive thinking that I could do it in 5 years. And then as I got going, my goals shifted a little bit because I saw that there were so many different opportunities in the industry to do so many different things. So I kind of shifted focus and said, well, I would like to stay in public as long as possible and maybe not own my own firm, but work with other partners in another firm so that I can expand and help my client base and keep growing that way.
I mean, for me, I just wanted to be licensed, obviously, the first 5 years, and really just grow within the firm and kind of work my way up to eventually be a partner. So those are my objectives, and just really continuing to grow, be that sponge, soak up all the information you can.
It's probably just a reflection of lack of creativity, but I don't really think I ever had goals of that kind. I really, being honest, I wanted to make enough money to support my family, and I wanted to have a job that I found to be challenging and enjoyable. And I would often have year-end review meetings or progress updates, and my supervisor would say, well, what do you want to work on next year? And being somewhat cynical, I'd say something that helps me make more money and advance my career. I don't have a burning passion to be in this industry or that industry. I just want to do well and be able to support my family and really feel like I'm contributing something to my company. And for me personally, the goal, I guess I would have to say, is to feel as though I'm doing something valuable and really contributing something important. Having done that, I feel as though I've accomplished something. It's not really a specific, I want to learn this, I want to get into this field. I just really kind of want to do well and represent myself well.
I think initially as well, it helped to have some colleagues that were also my age and to see what their goals were as well. And we kind of worked together and said, okay, we want to pass a CPA exam. So we went out and did that. We want to get involved in the state society. So we went out and we did that. So I ended up on the council. I ended up as a director on the Union County chapter. I also got involved in a nonprofit. So it's almost like you take things one step at a time, and you don't, so, you know, Danielle and I both said partners. Well, that doesn't have to be your goal in the first couple years of your career, so take it one step at a time. I want to pass the exam. I want to move up to a supervisor position. I want to join a board. I want to work with a nonprofit. You know, it doesn't have to be the end game result at first.
And there are tremendous opportunities in public accounting, also tons of opportunities outside of public accounting. In private industry, there are tons of roles you can take. You can go from, and I really do think that when you're in public, those who would hire you in private feel that you're kind of this moldable ball of clay. And you're a public accountant, so you can do FP&A, you can do internal audit, you can do controllership, you can do technical accounting, you can do M&A. All these kinds of things are available to you. So I don't really think you should feel any pressure to specialize early on. I think it's really an opportunity in public for your first few years or wherever you're working to try different things, learn as much as you can. And I guess that's why I didn't really focus on any specific goals, because I just didn't know enough to have a specific goal. And unfortunately, I still don't, I think. But not having the goals, I think there's so much that you can learn, that you'll find yourself on the right path just by doing what you should do at each level of your career.
So I guess Kate mentioned a little bit about being on the Young CPAs Council, but Ben and Danielle, how did you come to be on the CPAs Council?
It's a good question. I was really looking for, I joined the council while I was at Deloitte, and I was looking for a way to make my mark in the firm by doing something that was, shall we call it, extracurricular. To do well at Deloitte, you were measured on your performance as a professional, but also what you did for the firm outside of your professional work. So CPA Society was one of those options. So I began attending the meetings, and when a spot opened up, I was happy to take the opportunity. And having done that allowed me to expand to other roles within the CPA Society and have tons of networking opportunities to make acquaintances up and down the state and all kinds of jobs, and it's really been really beneficial to me.
Absolutely. For me, I literally started as an attendee at one of the society's events. It was a 2.5-day
You're the classic
event.
story.
Honestly, I'm like, that's the prime example. So I literally came, I was an attendee, I got my first job through the society, and I took it as a way that, you know, I just love the camaraderie of all the individuals that I had met, you know, as fellow attendees, as well as all the team leaders from this event. So the next year I became a panelist. I came back a few years after that. I was a team leader. I started, you know, going to the convention every year, and I would see, you know, all the panelists here. Yeah, also casinos help too. But also it was just a great. It's really a family. We all want each other to succeed. We're all at different firms, but you know we see each other often. And then you know going from attendee to panelist to speaker to I'm the head of the technology committee for the Bergen chapter. I'm also a director. So just kind of working my way up and putting myself out there to help the next class of young accountants.
And it's really nice that I think all of us on the council, formally for me, we see each other every 3 or 4 months, more often when events are going on. But every time you see your group, you get a career update from everybody. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I made manager. Oh, I'm a supervisor. I got a new job somewhere else. And it's really nice to have a supportive group of people who are moving in the same direction, similar interests, similar goals, although mine are murky. It's really a nice group, and that's something I felt when I started at Deloitte. There were a group of us, and Karen was one of them. We started together, and we all kind of had similar goals, and we worked together. Having left and gone to private, I don't have that same type of group, and the CPA Society has really replaced that and made me feel as though I'm part of this, as Danielle said, a CPA family in a way.
Plus, I can complain to you guys about accounting, as opposed to complaining to my husband, who's sick of hearing about accounting. So it's nice that you understand what I'm talking about when I get frustrated on my tax return and things like that. So to have like-minded individuals is
my wife thinks
pretty
I'm a basketball
helpful.
player.
There you go.
Well, we're really a profession. Very few jobs have that camaraderie, so it's nice to have.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think that I want to thank Danielle, Kate, and Ben for being here and joining us in our webcast. And I want to thank you for joining us as well. And I think that concludes our webcast for today.